So hello guys, let's start with our part 6 of this Python series. So today we will going to learn list slicing and comprehension, which is like very important concept when we talk about list in Python. Okay, so before that we have to revise our indexing part where we learned about Python indexing. Okay, so let's go ahead. Suppose we are having a list. So we are having a list, which I can say list a equal to, and there are some numbers 1 2 3 4. Okay, so now suppose as we learned in indexing. Okay, sorry, it got erased, let me write again. Okay, so let's say list a equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. Okay, now when we learned about indexing we know that the indexing starts from 0. Okay, so what will the index of 1? It will be 0 1 2 3 and 4. And Python is already have a concept of negative indexing. So negative indexing starts from -1. So it starts from like -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Okay, so it starts from backward and come to the beginning as I showed you in the diagram. So let's go ahead and see, like, if you want to try to if we try to access any element, so how can we do that? Suppose list a 0, what it will give us? It will give us 1. Okay, because the 0th index 1 is inserted, so it will give us 1. Okay, if we say list 1, then 2 will get printed. List a, sorry, I missed this list name. Okay, if I say list a and 2, then 3 will be get printed. Okay, now talking about negative indexing, let's do something like let's come here and do something like list a of -1 will give us 5. Okay, list a, we can say -2 will give us 4. So this is how indexing work in negative indexing work in Python. So this is the normal indexing, this is the positive one, and this is the negative indexing. Okay, so let's go ahead and see it in the coding part. Okay, so for part 6 I will create a list slicing .py. Okay, now suppose we have a list a equals, I will say a comma b comma c. Okay, so this is our list. If we try to access some of the element, what we can do, we can simply access it by indexing, as we just saw in our example. So let's try some of this. We can say print list a of 0. So what is the expected output? Expected output is a. Let's go ahead and run this file. As you can see, output is a. Okay, now let's make use of negative indexing. So if we say -1, what should get printed? F should get printed, because f is the last element, and negative indexing, as we saw, negative indexing start from the last of the list. Okay, so So when we come here and when we'll print minus a, then when I run this, see, f is got printed. Why? Because negative indexing start from -1. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's mark up the indexing. Okay, 1, sorry, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And if we talk about negative indexing, then it will be like hash. So as I told you, it will start from back. So let's come here and say -1, then we will come here and say -2. Okay, so then you will come here and say -3, then -4, then -5, and then -6 we can say. Okay, so let's arrange it a little bit. Okay, -4, -3, -2, and again -1. Okay, so are we correct? -1, -2, -3, -4, -5 and -6. Okay, now let's make use of slicing. Okay, so slicing basically means printing some of the selected elements of a string. Okay, so suppose slicing is done, like the syntax of slicing is, we do something like let me go ahead here and delete all this. So I will say canvas, control A, delete, then I text. Okay, so slicing is done basically like we give in a square bracket, we first we write list name, then we give start value, or to be more precise, start index, comma stop index, and step value, okay, so what is this? So this is the syntax of indexing. Okay, so first we give sorry, here is colon. So first we give start index, then we give stop index, and then we give colon. So what does it means? Let's see it practically. Okay, copy this, let me add it in comment. Okay, so now let's say we want to start from 0 and we want to go to the 4th index. Okay, so the 4th index is index is excluded, so it will go up to the 3rd index and it will print something like A, B, C, D. Okay, let's go ahead and print this code and see the output whether we are correct or not. Okay, so when I run this code, as you see, A, B, C, D got printed. Why? Because we are starting from 0, we are going through the 4th index, but 4th index is excluded, so it will only print up to the 3rd index. Okay, so it will print like A, B, C, D. Okay, some of us got confused this parameter as length. It's not the length, it's the index which is excluded. So 4th index, but 4th index is excluded. Okay, so now let's try some of the indexing. So suppose you want all the element starting from the 1st index. So how can we achieve that? Let me comment this, let me copy this, paste. So we want all the element starting from the 1st index, so I will just mention first, and in stop value I will not give anything. Okay, so in that way Python will assume that we want to go starting from first to the last. Okay, starting from first index to last. Okay, so when I run this code, see the output. When I run this code, as you see, everything starting from first index, everything got printed here. Everything got printed here. Okay, so this is some example of slicing. And suppose in syntax of slicing we learned about start index, stop index, and step value. So what does step value means? So by default step value is 1, so it takes one every one element. Suppose we want to skip one element. Okay, suppose you want to print something like A, then we want to print like C, then we will like to print E, skipping the printing the alternate elements, okay, of a list. So how can we achieve that? So for that we have to write like list A. We don't want to give any start or stop value, or and we'll just give the step value as 2, so it will increment the index h by 2 and it will skip one value. Okay, so when I print this, and when I run my code, as you can see, A got printed, then C got printed, then E got printed. Why? Because we have mentioned the step value as 2. Okay, suppose you want to print the string in reverse manner. Okay, in reverse, like FEDCBA. So for that you have to simply write here, you have to simply go ahead and write here -1. So in that way what will happen, indexing will be start from the -1 and every element step will be printed. Okay, so let's go ahead and print this. As you can see, list got reversed and every element is printed. So when you give here negative step value, it start from the backwards and start like printing in reverse. Okay, so there is no start index, no step index, only there is step value. Okay, so this is some of the example of indexing. Okay, now let's go ahead and see comprehension. Okay, so for comprehension, so comprehension, what a comprehension is. Okay, so comprehension provide us like a shortcut to create a list with certain condition, or to create a list using some of the functions. So we can write a inline function and that will create a list. What does it means? Let's go ahead and see. Suppose we want to create a list of like numbers 1 to 10. So what we can do, first approach is, what we can do, we can print like list A equal to 1, 2, 3. As you can see, this is the very lengthy method. Suppose you have to create list up to 50 element, it's like not possible to write everything like 4, 5. Okay, so for this type of solution we can use list comprehensions. So what we can write, so first do it with for loop and see how it works. Okay, so I have created an empty list. Now I will write a for loop for this. So for I in range, we have already saw how to write a for loop. So we'll start from 1, we will go up to 50, so we have to give 51 here, and then I will say I will simply say list a dot append. Okay, list. Okay, what is the issue here? I have missed comma here. Okay, list a dot no, the spelling of list is missing. Okay, so let me write like list a. Okay, so list a dot append, and I will say I. Okay, now when we print this list, when we print this list a, see what got printed. Okay, so let's print this list. Okay, as you can see, list up to starting from 1 to 50 got printed. Okay, so first approach is using for loop, so which is a bit lengthy method. Now let's achieve the same thing using list comprehension. Okay, so let me comment all this. Okay, and how can we can write, like we can say number for number in range 1 comma 51. So this will give us the same output as earlier. So now let's go ahead and run this. Okay, unexpected indents. As I told you earlier, we have to be careful about the indentation. So now when I run this, see 1 to 50 got printed. Okay, so this is a basic example of list comprehension. Now let's do something more complicated. Now let's suppose we have to print or we have to initialize a list having all the even number between 1 to 50. Okay, so for that we can write like number for number in range 1 comma 51 if number is totally divisible by 2. So if you can say if num mod 2 equals 0. So this we have already seen in odd even example. So now when I run this, you can see this list is consisting of only the even numbers. Okay, so only even numbers are here. Okay, so now let's take another example. Suppose we have a list, we can say list books. Okay, so list books consist of tuples, and in tuples we have book name, so I can say book 1 and the year on which they got published, so I will say 1990. Okay. Or let's make it 2010. Okay, now let's me copy this and I will make something like, okay, so make it book 2 11, book 3 I will say 12, book 4 I will say 13, and book 5 I will say 15. Now let's suppose we want to print the books which were published before 2012. Okay, so we only want to print the book which is before 2012. Okay, so how we can write something like list b equals we can say, let's take a variable, we can say title. Okay, for title, comma, year, year in list book if year is less than 2012. So in that way, all the books which were published before 2012 will be appended to the list B. So when we print list B, we can see, let me run this, book 1 and book 2 got printed. Why? Because these are only two books which got published before 2012. Okay, so this is the sum of the example of list comprehension. Hope you are clear with the concept of slicing and comprehensions. Thank you. Bye bye.